Welcome to Audiobook 365 Stories.
It was an exciting day at Floriat's house the morning before the trial. Mr. Floriat came from Toulouse the night before, and Mr. Valmorin planned to visit him that morning if he could. Helen was at the house before 10 o'clock, eager to see Raymond. He had gone to the prison early to try to see his client one last time. While waiting, Helen chatted with Rose and wished Raymond's dad could be the judge in the case to increase their chances of winning. "It's tough to get cases, isn't it?" she said sadly. "I don't really know," replied Rose cheerfully. "But I think starting in law is like starting anything else. You have to begin somewhere." "And Raymond is starting tomorrow," whispered the girl, as if she just realized it. "Tomorrow he's doing his first case. And it's quite a big case to start with," said Rose. "Everyone's talking about it." "Oh, I really hope he wins," said the girl, almost in tears. "I've been thinking about it nonstop for weeks." "Oh, I'm not worried about that," reassured Rose, like a loyal friend. "Mr. Raymond is smart, I'm telling you. He'll convince them." "Do you think he'll come back soon?" asked Helen, worried. "It depends," smiled Rose. "Does he know you're here?" I don't think so, no," Helen said quickly, looking out the window. "I just told him that my dad might visit Mr. Floriat this morning at 11, and I might come to meet him." "Rose, why are you laughing?" "Oh, nothing much. Please don't tease me," she pleaded. "Well, I was laughing," chuckled Rose, "because you rushed here so early at 9:30 to meet your dad, who won't be here until 11. Helen blushed. "You probably think I'm silly, don't you?" "Oh, no," Rose said with a serious smile. "I'm happy to see that you and Raymond love each other." Helen's face lit up with happiness. "Really? Does that make you happy?" she asked softly. "Yes, very," nodded Rose. And then Helen kissed her cheek. "I helped raise that young man, you know," she said, putting her arm around Helen. "And I feel like he's a bit mine too. I'm really glad he chose well." "He's going to talk to his dad about it this morning," said Helen, nervously. Rose smiled. "I don't think his dad will be surprised." Helen looked surprised. "You don't think Mr. Floriat knows?" she gasped. "That you and Raymond love each other?" "Oh, definitely not," laughed Rose. "He'd have to be blind not to see it. Everyone in the neighborhood knows." Helen gasped and covered her face with her hands. "The baker asked me yesterday about the wedding," continued Rose mischievously. "And the butcher asked the day before. Even the grocer asked a few days ago, and—" She seemed ready to go on forever when a cheerful voice interrupted. "There you are." And Maitre Raymond Floriat walked in. "Yes, there she is. Quite a surprise. Didn't expect to see her, did you?" They heard Rose laughing as she left the room. Helen managed to regain some dignity as she gave him her hands and looked into his happy eyes. "You didn't expect to see me so early, did you?" she asked. "No, not at all," he laughed. "Maybe that's why I came early too." But seriously, are you surprised to see me here? He leaned down and gave her a gentle kiss on the lips. No, I'm not surprised, he said seriously. I like to think you're as eager to see me as I am to see you. It feels like weeks since I last saw you. Only 12 hours, she laughed happily. 12 years. Have you thought about me since then? He responded in a way that people have been doing for thousands of years. Did you dream about me? Not at all, he shook his head and smiled. She pretended to be offended. Real life with you is better than any dream, my love, he said tenderly. This sweet talk was followed by a few minutes of silence, as is proper in such situations. Helen gently moved away. Have you been working hard? She asked. Yes, I got up at 5 this morning to finish my work. I'm all set now. And the trial is tomorrow, she said softly. Tomorrow's the big day, nodded Raymond. And I'll be there to hear you. Of course. But I'll have to find a spot where I can't see you. If I catch a glimpse of you, I might forget what I'm saying, and imagine if I started stuttering and stammering with you there. I'd be mortified. He shivered with a genuine fear. And you've decided to talk to your dad today? She asked quietly, after a moment of silence. Yes, I'll talk to him as soon as he gets here, said her boyfriend, trying to sound brave, though he was nervous. Well, be careful not to get nervous and mess up, she smiled. Rose peeked in the door for a moment. Mr. President is here, she whispered and disappeared. All right, get ready, whispered Helen eagerly as they heard the father's footsteps in the hallway. She was trying not to laugh as her nervous boyfriend quickly moved out of sight from the door. So when Mr. Florriet came and kissed her, he didn't notice his son at first. Good morning, my dear, he said with a gentle smile. Raymond stepped forward and cleared his throat. You could say, good morning, my children, Dad, he suggested uncertainly. If you want, was the smiling reply. And holding each of their hands, he said, good morning, my two dear children. Helen hurried to his desk and came back with a big bunch of roses in a tall vase. I brought you these flowers this morning, sir, she said, looking at him shyly. Mr. President took them with both hands and breathed in their scent. They're almost as lovely as the person who gave them, he said with a gracious bow. Oh, Mr. Florriet, she protested with a blush and a smile. Then, as he turned to put the bouquet on his desk, she whispered to Raymond, I think you should talk to him now. I agree, he whispered back. My dad said he'd come see you around 11, Mr. Florriet, she said as he turned to them again. I'll be happy to see him. I'll go get him, if that's okay, she said eagerly. Mr. President smiled. I'll try not to be too upset, he reassured her. The three of them walked slowly out into the garden. Mr. Florriet found a seat in a small shelter while the young couple moved toward the gate. He pretended to be very interested in the morning paper, but watched them secretly. Instead of going out, Helen stopped behind a big bush where she couldn't be seen, and Raymond came back nervously. He stopped about 10 feet from his dad, opened his mouth twice, but couldn't speak. His father didn't seem to notice him at all. He took another timid step, and then, as the paper rustled, he quickly went back toward the bush where Helen was hiding. Helen came out, shaking with silent laughter, and waved him back with firm gestures. He tried again, but panicked at the last moment. Finally, he approached within earshot and asked nervously, "Is Mr. President very busy?" "Very busy," his father replied without looking up from the paper. Raymond winced a little, then looked up at the sky and muttered sadly, "What a bother." Mr. President looked up in surprise. "Did you want to talk to me?" he asked politely. "Yes," and very seriously. His father stood up with a laugh and put away his newspaper. "For how long?" he joked with a mischievous smile. "Not very long," Raymond assured him quickly. "At least, I don't think it'll take long to say. Try saying it in 4 words. I love Helene Valmorin," he blurted out desperately. Mr. President stepped back, looking surprised, but his eyes were laughing. "Do you?" he exclaimed. Raymond looked at him doubtfully for a moment, and then understood everything. Did you know?" he asked sheepishly. His father burst into laughter. "You must think I'm clueless." Raymond decided to be direct. "And I want to marry her," he continued. Mr. President nodded. "I can understand that," he smiled. "Well, may God bless you both and make you happy. Is that all you wanted to say?" "Yes, that's it," Raymond said with a deep sigh of relief. Mr. Floriat looked into his son's eyes, so similar to his late wife's, and all the love and longing he had ever felt for both mother and son shone in his own eyes. He put a hand affectionately on Raymond's shoulder. "My boy," he said seriously and gently, "you're a good man, and you've been the greatest joy of my life. I think Helene is a good match for you. Love her, my boy. Love her always, no matter what. Be her friend, her guide, her support, as well as her husband. Above all, try to understand her. Women can be complicated, but don't forget to include your wife in your life. Share all your joys and sorrows with her. You might have tough times and feel bitter sometimes. Most men do. But never forget that being a husband is a big responsibility. Always remember, Raymond, that you're responsible for your wife's life, soul, and happiness." Raymond listened seriously, his head bowed. When his father stopped, he looked up with a tender smile. "I don't think it'll be too hard for me, Dad," he said. "Life can be tough sometimes, son," his father said, shaking his head. "Valmorin will be here soon, and I need to talk to him. I have to tell him a secret before I ask for his daughter's hand." "A secret?" Raymond exclaimed, surprised. "Yes," his father nodded. "I'll tell you later what it is." Raymond started to feel uneasy and worried. Lovers are easily frightened. "Your secret won't make him say no, will it?" he stuttered. "No," his father laughed lightly. "I don't think